I feel so guilty for wanting to leave. And I don't know, even as nurses as well, I think we have this real love and passion. And I do love the NHS, but I can't do it full time forever. I can't. And I think a lot of other injectors, and as I'm doing this, I've heard other nurses that I've worked with said, oh, I might do aesthetics, and I think some people think, oh, you can just jump into aesthetics on the side a little bit, but it's a whole nother industry. It's a whole specialism. It's not, you can't just do one evening a week. You need to really put all your time and effort into aesthetics. It's not just something you can quickly pick up.
Yeah, and the guilt around the NHS, I experienced that most acutely over COVID, because I had just decided to completely quit, and then the lockdown happened, and I had this really strong urge that I couldn't just leave my colleagues and do nothing. It was just a horrible sense of guilt. I can imagine what it's like if your country goes to war and you're trying to hide under the bed instead of going.
You don't
want
to go and
like, you feel guilty, and I don't know if it's a man thing or not, but that kind of wanting to go and fight for your country was just really came up in me as a major thing, and I haven't left since then. So those feelings I think they're specifically why you went into it in the first place, because some people are idealistic, and I actually think the NHS rides on the back of idealistic nurses who want to just help patients,
who have a passion and they will
aren't
work.
Money driven, like you're actually not driving towards. But then they find that the month is longer than the paycheck, and there aren't that many easy ways to increase that, and then you start to personally suffer for your ideals. And my dad told me this very early on, before I even got into medicine. I remember him saying that the first sign of burnout is you stop enjoying the things that you used to enjoy in your job. And that happened to me in general practice a number of times, because I love talking to patients, love extracting their story and helping them make sense of stuff, and obviously hopefully picking up diseases and curing them. But when the workload is so heavy and so repetitive and there's no room, and you keep getting more chunks taken off you, you don't have time for that. And they sit back in their chair and they're like, I'll tell you when the story started. And normally I'd want to hear that. And I was thinking, just tell me what I need to know to make sure you're not going to die.
I'm 100% the same. Like the day when a patient will start talking to me and I can feel my ear closing because I don't want to listen to it anymore. And you think, I'm awful. I'm an awful person because I don't want to listen to them. Because to them telling you their story is so important, and they just want someone to listen. And the minute you stop listening is the day when I go, that's not empathetic. That's not why I became a nurse.
Yeah. And yet that same emotion that makes you want to listen to your patients, even when you haven't got time, is also what keeps you in a situation that's actually not good for you. And that's unfortunately how I think it is that a lot of healthcare professionals end up carrying a really heavy load in order to comply with identity, which is a big reason why I keep going, I think, and that sense of duty. But meanwhile, your own life is getting eroded, and you're not able to do the things you wanted to do, and your relationships are stressed. All that stuff that happens when you're working in a way that isn't sustainable. But it's built on people who went in for all the reasons why you could not pay them well and make them work longer hours.
Because they're not in it for the money. We never did it for the money, but it'd be nice to be appreciated a little bit more.
I had this reason in my head that if every healthcare professional actually went in and tried to make the most of the situation and argued if they deserve more pay, that they argued it, and if they leave if there's a better opportunity, that actually over time that would be good for the specialty, because the market forces would say we're going to have to recognize
we need to do
the real value, otherwise no one's going to do it. And so it's actually, in a way, you could argue that it's a good thing for the NHS that if you find a better opportunity, that you take that opportunity, and that you wish that for your colleagues too, because that over time makes them have to compete.
They have to do something, don't they, to keep you.
Yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing is that you can never let go, like I've never let go.
Can't. I don't think I'd ever leave it. Can't. Just that sense of duty that I'm a nurse, I've got my pin, and I know that how short we are at the moment. I'd never want to leave my colleagues suffering. So you've just got to help out where you can.
So you can do it on your terms, so less frequently, more part-time, and still build a business. I think if there's anyone who can prove it, like I've proved that you can do both. I don't do, because I remember lots of people saying you'll give up eventually. And I remember thinking maybe I'm just naive, maybe I will have to give up, and it is impossible. But for whatever reason, I can still do it. So it's your choice. Another thing, like just ask for the thing that you actually want, and you can just build that. You don't have to listen to anyone else other than yourself, which is another big reason why I think we've done well is that I never take anyone else's word as just the way things are. We're all just people making stuff up at the end of the day. I think it's a Steve Jobs quote. Look around you. Everything you see is just made up by someone else. So just to be bold enough to ask for your thing and to do it your way is absolutely fine.
Just having that confidence in it.
But you do need a plan to do less work. I think as one of your questions as well is at what point do you decide to really go all in, at least financially? Because I don't depend on my GP income at all, so it doesn't make any difference to me. But there was a point where it was everything and I had to take a leap.
Yeah, at what point do you say, right, you can't work full time and then do aesthetics? At what point do you sort of stop the full time and then do you just drop your hours gradually? Do you quit and just do agency? Maybe you just take it as it comes.
Yeah, I think you should have a plan, and it's mainly based around time and money, like how much time and money. And the other thing at your age now is if you can keep your expenses minimal.
Yeah, stay at home with my dad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It gives you so much more flexibility. So I've never been flash. I was driving a 12-year-old car when I first started in aesthetics. I used to hide it around the corner to make sure that my patients didn't see the old car and think maybe it's a bad injector. But I didn't increase my expenses. And that gave me the ability to take a huge drop in salary when I first started, because I was earning like junior doctor wages, but nice. It was like, I don't know, 45, something like that. But I couldn't take that out of the business in the early stages. So we saved everything for 3 years from the business, literally separate bank account, never took any money out of it.
Just live on basics.
Yeah, Miranda then lived off my salary, and we saved approximately £30,000, and that was our initial hire someone money. And in fact, we hired 3 people that went into business with, but we had a plan. That was the big thing. So what happened in the August after GP is I stopped working except for occasional locums. And we went all in, and we started chewing through the £30,000 that we'd saved. And it was literally, I could see every month.
Yeah, I can imagine quite quickly.
And I remember working my butt off like in August and September, and then getting the business accounts back, and we'd made a loss. And it was devastating because I felt like I'd worked really harder than I'd ever worked before. But it was actually in the plan, but it still felt awful. Because basically it's like a plane that's heading down towards the ground, and you're trying to pull
working
up.
so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of, but it was in the plan, and the plan is, I must credit, Lee and Gillian, my partners, for creating the mathematical side of it. So I knew it was kind of expected, but it still was hard to take because I felt I was working really hard and making nothing. But by the Christmas, we made our first tiny profit, and that was a sign that we could actually keep on going. Make a financial plan of how much you can actually live on. Work out how many patients you need to see to pay for that, or how many nurse locums you need to do. So we've talked about having your go-to clinic in 5 years' time. You need some mathematical goals that associate with that. So when I can regularly see 10 patients a week, I can drop 2 days a week, and that becomes a goal that motivates you, and you actually get the 10 patients quicker because your brain is clearer about why you need those patients.
I need 10, yeah.
So make a mathematical plan of how many patients to achieve your financial goal that allows you to take less time in the NHS, more time on aesthetics. The maths and the goals will make it happen quicker as well. And when you hit that moment, you'll know it's time for the next, because it'll be scary. The moment where you think, I'm going to tell my boss I'm going to work less.
I need to work 30 hours, not 40. Yeah.
Yeah, it is scary. And then there's all the politics around what your colleagues think, and hopefully you've got nice colleagues, but a lot of people.
Yeah, mine have been really supportive, but I know that some people's are a bit more, shouldn't think that you should be doing that, but mine have been really supportive.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, because as you move into something new, if you hadn't realized it, it's kind of a challenge to everyone around you, because they either have to say, that's a good thing, but I'm not doing it because I prefer this, or they have to say, actually, I don't like this either, but I'm putting up with it. And it creates an internal conflict that sometimes you'll get basically they'll project their resentment about their own life onto you and start to create. Hopefully most people aren't like that, but I've heard so many stories where
people put their doubt into you, and you think you're doing a good thing, but they're doubting you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they make stories up about you, like you don't care about patients.
Yeah, or she's just doing lip fillers on the side to make a bit more money, and they don't actually think about my ethics and why I'm doing it. They just think, oh, she's trying to make money.
Yep.
It's not like that.
This happens all the way through life, is that people will create a story about you that lets them off the hook. And I'm not saying I've never done it. I think we all do it. In fact, I have done it because I caught myself doing it once I realized this. You'll meet someone who's incredibly successful, and they'll tell you a bit about their business, and you'll think it was easy for you because you had that one advantage. And actually, like, we've all got things that are good about us and things that are bad. But if you focus on letting yourself off the hook because someone else had an advantage, you end up just scuppering yourself. And because you've got advantages they don't have either. And you just have to. Everyone gets a mixed hand. You just got to play your hand out.
Do what you can with what you've got. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the NHS, you're quite protected. If anything was to go wrong, you're protected by your indemnity and your RCN. Whereas in the aesthetics industry, you're sort of a bit on your own, aren't you? Which is quite scary. And if you make a mistake, you need to know what to do with it. You need to own up to it.
Absolutely.
And deal with it.
That's a big part of it is feeling very much on your own, solely responsible.
Yeah, when you're injecting a face by yourself.
Yeah, and it's very different, even in general practice. Like if I prescribe a antihypertensive and someone gets a reaction and they end up sick, it's actually kind of more the drug's fault. Yeah. It's not because I administered it badly.
And then the pharmacist will check it, and there's so many steps to it. It's not just you. Whereas in aesthetics, you're getting that filler and you're putting it into someone's face, and you're making sure that they're safe to have that.
Yeah. So it is definitely, it's high stakes, and it's very personal when it doesn't go smoothly, and that will happen because that's the nature of it, which is why you will become, basically if you keep going, you become a really robust human. I think it's actually quite good for your development in life generally. But it is hard. But you're not actually alone. A lot of good injectors will help other injectors when things are bad.